Hey Tap Fam, Mike here. Do you want to fill your fridge with unique craft beers, ciders, or seltzers that you can't find locally? Then Tavour is your answer. I partner with them to bring you this exclusive offer for my Taproom listeners. When you use the promo code TAPROOM25, you get a $10 credit towards your next purchase when you spend $25 in the app or online. Tavour has it all, from IPAs to stouts, sours, ciders, and so much more. So make sure you use the promo code TAPROOM25 to get a $10 credit towards your next purchase. And now, on to the episode. All right, and we're back. This is episode 101, and this is the Taproom Podcast, and I'm your host, Mike. Oh, man, a little tired. It's a Sunday morning. It's 8:30. Been up since 2. Haven't been able to sleep. Maybe I'm just because I was so excited about this episode. I'm excited for this episode. It's with Garrett Carroll, one of the co-founders and one of the brewers at Ambitious Ales in Long Beach. I first met Garrett actually at Nadav's going away party. Shout out to my buddy Nadav out in Israel. We actually just did a international collab with Long Beach Bear Lab. So it was super cool with Beer Bazaar. So super stoked for them. But yeah, so I got to meet him then, and we kind of mentioned, I was like, oh man, I'd love to have you guys on the show. I've had your beer. It's, so good. And lo and behold, everything kind of came to fruition and we were able to get it done. This was recorded a few weeks ago. But yeah, man, I'm super stoked for you guys to hear this one. Honestly, really great beer, really great story. And honestly, their tap room's really cool. And it's like kind of like nerdy in a way, like I am, where there's like set where they name, certain names after like pop culture references. And as soon as I walked in, like they even just going by where the tanks are, there's a sign that says, "You shall not pass." And I was like, "Yep, you got me." Hook, line, and sinker. So super stoked for you guys to listen to that. Before we jump into it, got a few things going on. The NFL playoffs are going on right now. My Packers lost last week. I don't know. It is what it is. But man, yesterday, big time upset. I mean, with the Lions and the Commanders. Honestly, I feel like the Lions are the better team, but all those injuries on defense just piled up. I mean, they were able to get by in the regular season, but eventually it just kind of felt like it kind of imploded. And then 5 turnovers will kill you anytime. You got to protect the football in the playoffs, or in any game, but especially the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Today we have the Rams and the Eagles. I'm not a Rams fan, but I feel like the Rams are kind of like could be the team to beat in the NFC. They've been playing playoff football for like the last 8-9 weeks. They just feel like it feels like one of those teams where you get hot right before, as you go into the playoffs and you just ride that all the way. So I feel like the Rams could pull that off. Not to say that the Eagles can't. Eagles have a phenomenal defense, but the Rams defense has been playing well. The offense is coming along. So I feel like it could be for them. There was some questionable calls, we will say, in that Kansas City game yesterday. I mean, I feel like when they could have got off the Texans could have got off the field, but with that unnecessary roughness or the late hit or whatever it was, the unnecessary roughness on the quarterback, I just feel like, come on, man, like that was like he drops all of a sudden. Like, what are they supposed to do? Like, there's no way for the defense to do anything. And I think one of the players said it's like we knew we were going to be playing against them and the refs. I was like, oh shit. So yeah, pretty crazy. But I'm excited to see the games today too. That should be pretty good. Bills Ravens should be a good game. But yeah, I feel like the Rams could be the team to dethrone the Chiefs, but we'll see. Also, the Natty is tomorrow, the national title. Super stoked for that. Also, MLK Day, so get the day off. But obviously, everything that Martin Luther King did, so grateful. Let's see. The Natty the line is 8.5. Yeah, 8.5. So, I still think Ohio State wins. Ohio State's favored by 8.5. I feel like if the Notre Dame defense can create some turnovers, which they have all year, then they have a chance. But I feel like they have to play a perfect game. where I feel like Ohio State is so talented that they can make a couple mistakes and still be okay. But I feel like Notre Dame offensively and defensively and special teams has to play a perfect game in order to beat Ohio State. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. That's the beauty of college football. Anything can freaking happen. So it should be pretty good. Let's see here. Oh, just to let everybody know, your 2025 World Series champs are going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not a Dodger fan. Everybody knows. Oh, most of my friends know that. Most of the people that listen to the show know that I'm a big Braves fan. But yeah, that team is just unreal. Like there's nothing else to say. Like I don't even know why you even send anybody else out there, to play against them. But we'll see. Let's see what we got. Oh, for today's playoff games, I'm going to be making some quesadilla tacos. I got to make all the stuff today, like all the stuff for like the consomme and all the beef and stuff. Because I don't use goat. I just use beef. So I make it kind of like shredded beef, but it should be pretty good. I'll post some pics later, And then I'm also going to make some of my habanero chili. And if it ain't spicy, then what's the point? All right. Well, we'll jump into I had some other stuff to go over, but we'll go over that in the outro. I hope everybody enjoys the episode with Garrett Carroll. What a phenomenal dude. And if you're in the Long Beach area or in the LA area or OC or anywhere around, get down to Ambitious Ales, try their beer. I had one of my favorite ones was Gandalf the Crisp. I love me a crispy boy. So that's some bomb, super good. And honestly, all the beers I had, I think I had like 3 or 4 beers. Really, really good stuff. So definitely get down there if you have the chance. Yeah. So stay tuned enjoy the interview and stay tuned for the outro. Cheers. All right, guys, we're back in the tap room, and I'm your host, Mike, and I have a very special guest on the show today. It's Garrett Carroll, the co-founder and head brewer at Ambitious Ales in Long Beach. It's off of Carson and Atlantic. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad glad we can come down. We can make this happen. I've been trying your beer for a long time. We actually met at Nadav's going away party.
Yeah, Nadav, we love him.
Oh, yeah.
He's the best.
And we're going to start off with a beer before we jump into your craft beer journey. What are you having?
I'm drinking Smiley. You got Gandalf the Crisp.
Yeah, I love that name. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, so Gandalf the Crisp is a New Zealand style Pilsner. It's one of like the original, like first year of our business recipes that we came up with that we fell in love with really quick.
Okay.
It's kind of modeled after an Italian Pilsner.
Okay.
So think like Pivo Pils from Firestone Walker. That's kind of like, I feel like the pinnacle of the style for the West Coast.
Yeah.
But we've just from day one been really into the Southern Hemisphere hops. So Freestyle Farms is one of the hop farms we contract with.
Okay.
And Motueka is just like a super cool, lively hop that is originated from Saaz from the like European Union, like Czechoslovakia.
Oh, nice.
Or Czech Republic, actually. Sorry, correct myself there. But yeah, so that hop is grown there, and it produces all these big lime notes, lots of like nice floral characteristics, which is great for like a Euro style Pilsner.
Oh, yeah.
And the base malt is with Weyermann Barca Pils, which is a really cool German Pilsner that's got like really nice bready notes. So it's almost kind of rustic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's truly just a brewer's beer. And that's why we loved it so much. Yeah. And the whole name, Gandalf, the whole Lord of the Rings folklore filmed in New Zealand. We just had to use it.
Oh, yeah.
And the beer has been a fan favorite and a brewer favorite. So we've been brewing it nonstop for basically about 5 years now.
Wow. Oh, it's delicious. You guys did a great job on this one.
Thank you. Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, so tell us how you started Ambitious Ales, your whole craft beer journey.
So yeah, Ambitious Ales, what a journey.
Yeah.
It really all started with the craft beer obsession in like 2009, I want to say. Okay. 2009, 2010. I did not drink craft beer at all. So that was like a really interesting thing for me. I only drank like weird, obscure liqueurs like pomegranate liqueur, like weird. Right. I'd go to parties and I'd like say no to Coors Light, but I'd have like a Palma liqueur bottle. John, one of my close friends, but also other co-founder and brewer, he makes fun of me all the time. He thinks it's the most hilarious thing that I got into, but that was like my thing. And out of nowhere, I think it was like 2010, Jerome, my other business partner, he invited me to the Oregon Brewers Festival in Portland, Oregon. It's one of the longest standing beer festivals in America outside of GABF.
Yeah.
It's RIP, unfortunately. I think they had their last year in 2023.
Oh.
So it's really sad. But that was a game changer moment for myself. And I think it was kind of the culmination of all of us falling in love to craft beer around the exact same time. And like pinnacle moment there was just drinking, it was Maui Coconut Porter.
Okay.
Which is like a really funny beer. And I think they still make it today. I haven't had it in a very long time. But I remember that was like the jump off beer that got me hooked instantly. Because I was like, wow, flavor. There's things that are happening with beer. And I was like, this is really cool. And from there, it instantly turned into a homebrew fascination obsession the minute I got home from Portland. And it never really stopped from there. So the beginnings of it all was really me having a 1 gallon brew kit, then upgrading to a 5 gallon brew kit, inviting everyone over. We all fell in love together. We started basically coming up with ideas for beers and recipes. And then I think like maybe a year in, we just decided to come up with the name.
Okay.
And it was Ambitious Ales. I think we decided this at 3 a.m. at Harbor House Cafe in Sunset Beach.
Oh, nice.
We used to go there late nights. I, at the time, lived in Huntington Beach, and we would brew after my day job, which was actually at night. So we wouldn't start brewing till like 11 o'clock at night in my garage. So it was really funny. But we were just starting to really get into it. We built like a whole home brew kit that ended up taking over my garage. And we started brewing for friends. And it started turning into their parties, their weddings. Jerome would host a massive get-together every year called Chill Giving during Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
He would have like 150 people in his parents' backyard.
Oh, dang.
So that was an era. And that kind of was the jump-off point of knowing that we could come up with recipes, that we had like a true passion for the craft, and we wanted to do more with it. And it slowly turned into something where we decided as a friend group, which I'll name everybody. So we got Jerome De Leon. He's my other co-founder. He's operations. There's Jonathan Cuthbert. He's the other co-founder. He is lead brewer. Then there's Juan Carrillo. He's like our overall general manager and accountant, bookkeeping. He keeps this place running. And then Danny Karpinski, who does all of our branding and marketing. He makes us look beautiful, all of our can art, our entire building. It's gorgeous. We love it. Danny's responsible for that. And we've all stuck together since day one. And we decided to start this business and create a business plan. And it all really started, I think, close to 2016, 2017.
Oh, wow.
And then that's when we eventually got enough money to get this place going. And I think we signed the lease in September of 2017. And it took us about 18 months to get open. And we opened February of 2019. So 6 years almost later, we're here.
That's awesome, man. And it's cool. I mean, I bet it was like, I mean, from where I'm sure like what it started out as, like, you know, to where it is now. I feel like I bet that's probably a journey in itself.
A wild journey, especially coming from home brewers and not really understanding commercial brewing. And, you know, thankfully, we had a lot of really awesome breweries that were willing to share knowledge and help us get started. And I don't think if we had those brewers, I mean, namely, especially once we signed our lease and we became friends with people in Long Beach, like 10 Mile, Jesse and Dan crushed it. They were so welcoming to us. They let us come in, wash kegs, learn how to brew on their system. So it gave us confidence in actually like walking into this place the day we were able to legally start brewing and make a batch of beer.
Was Gandalf the Christ was what, like the first, like one of the first ones on the menu?
It actually wasn't. It took maybe 4 or 5 months for us to get to that point.
Okay.
We started taking all of our homebrew recipes first. And the funny thing about our whole journey is that we, I think as just craft beer, you know, passionate people, and also we like to drink, we wanted to keep all of our beers low ABV. So we were really into Belgian beers at the time, which I think it's kind of always been a trend for home brewers because there's just lots of flavor and creativity and things you can do with that. So we were always looking at table beers, lots of like 4, 5% beers, things that were packed full of flavor, but easy to drink. And also we could have a lot of it. So when we opened this brewery, the idea was we would have sessionable beers, like sub 5%, which is very niche. And we hit it out the lineup with about 5 beers when we opened. We caved in. We weren't brewing IPAs at all. We actually did not like IPA, which is really funny, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But we launched with Central Perk, our coffee blonde, which has always been a namesake. We've won awards for it as home brewers, and we've won awards for it as professional brewers, which is really
it's
awesome.
A cool name, too.
Thank you. And then Fleurs, which is a Belgian table beer. That's with like chamomile, lavender, strawberry, the true like home brewery style beer. We launched that like 3.5%. We had Bach Tunes, which is our big imperial stout that has like chilies, cinnamon, coffee, vanilla. It's kind of themed after like the Mayan cocoa style blends, but that's a big 10% beer. And then we had one session IPA just to make everyone happy.
Of course, you got to have an IPA.
We knew we were going to have something. And that was about it. We launched with that. And it was well received, but we definitely, we had some work to do. It was, first batches. I think it's like any brewery, you're figuring out your system, you're figuring out just how to produce beer on this level. And our first like month of opening was really good, but then we already started seeing the feedback of like, we needed higher ABV beers. We needed more hoppy beers. We needed to actually look more into lagers because that was like the uptick of where lagers started to slowly make a return.
Oh yeah, finally.
Lagers were definitely not the thing, and we weren't even drinking them very much. So it was really funny to be like, okay, we got to learn into this. And that's kind of what spawned the idea of getting off the crisp is as we started to get into lagers, we were like, we don't want something boring and basic. We need to have something with hop character, malt character. It's got to be fun, but also easy drinking. And it's funny, that beer started out at 4.5%, and we saw that people were still not really into that, and we bumped it up to 5%, and that was where like the sweet spot was at, where it seemed like that was the palatability that like everyone was looking for, and also like just that perfect 5% range seems to be a really drinkable ABV content for people. So that was like, I think, the initial jump off point in the first quarter of our business.
Okay. And I feel like this one too is super, it's crisp and it's like clean, it's refreshing, but you also get that maltiness to it.
Correct.
And it's like, and you get some like, that hop, like those floral notes. It's really good.
Yeah, I love it. It's very complex, but it's very simple. And I think it's a beer that is attractive to a lot of different drinkers, whether you're a craft beer aficionado or just a simple, I just want a beer. And it's something that has flavor, but it's easy to drink and approachable.
100%. And I love the logo. Like, where did that kind of come from?
So that's funny. So the guy on the mountain is Ambitious Al.
Okay.
And you could see he's climbing to the top of the mountain, but really hasn't made it there yet. And that's kind of, I think, the metaphor of us always striving for more. We're trying to get to the top, but there's always work to do.
Oh, yeah.
You can never just be at the top, because once you're there, you just you plateau. Like, what do? You go back down. So this is us always kind of thinking in our head, like, we can do better, we can do more. We can just bring out better beers, better customer service, create more community. And I think that's always like the methodology for what we want to do, and just like kind of our homage to the brand and what our whole friendship, partnership, and like beer styles stand for.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that, because it's like, because some people are just can be complacent and they're not willing to try to like push further. And you have to, especially in life. Like I say it all the time, like I quote Shawshank when I say, get busy living or get busy dying. And it's like, and I think Chris Hardwick once said it too, is like the second you stop growing or the second you stop trying to learn, then that's the second you start, things go downhill.
100%. Things fall off. And by nature, I'm a big researcher. I'm always looking at what other people are doing. And I love to get out there, drink other people's beers, see how their tap room's operating, how their breweries in general are just operating. And I get inspiration every day. So it's really fun, especially even just locally. Like, we have so many amazing breweries in Southern California, even just here in LA, Long Beach, Orange County, that you can really model a lot of things after. And I think that goes for everyone. Like, we all open breweries because we were inspired by everyone else, what they were doing. And so it's like, I vividly remember like when we were opening this brewery, before that, the tasting room like plan for the business side, we would go and sit at different tap rooms in Orange County, because we all grew up in like Buena Park, Cypress area.
Okay.
So we would spend a lot of time at like Bottle Logic, Noble Ale Works when Evan Price was still there.
Oh, yeah.
The heyday of the Naughty Sauce and all the Showers series and whatnot. Then we would also go to the brewery, obviously, in Placentia, which was, I think, kind of like the pinnacle. They started that whole trend, like the Belgian beers, the big barrel-aged stuff. Oh, yeah. Then they got into the hoppy beers, and they were just doing everything right. And so anytime you went in that tap room, you're like, wow, like, how do we do this? You know? So it was always this just glorified mecca. And it was like 10 minutes away from where we live. So it was so fun to just go there and see how they were operating. So a lot of what we did was, take little bits and pieces, and that just gave us the inspiration of like, what do we want to bring into our tap room and turn into our business? So that's the best part about all these local breweries. Like, and it just, you constantly keep getting that inspiration, even as we're in almost 2025 now.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like even like, even winning awards and stuff like that, like if you're, there's always that kind of that brewer's mentality where it's never good enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a chef.
Yeah.
You got to make it better. You got to make it better. And we're always searching for that. A huge thing for us, because, as we've grown, the IPA program has definitely taken off for us. COVID was a big, I think, testament to that. We realized when we closed for 11 months, we're going to can everything. So 100% of our beer was going just straight in a package. And that was a whole new thing for us.
Yeah, of course.
And I think to kind of rewind, our old system that we had was a dairy tank system. So it was very like chopped together with different pieces. It was what we could afford when we built the brewery. And all of our cellar tanks where we're fermenting and also carbonating the beer as a bright and like just turning it around, we're in these Grundy style tanks, which are really not good for all of the purposes that we're talking about, but we made it work. And one of the coolest things about our industry, the collaborative efforts, I found breweries throughout the entire US that was doing this and asking them, what are you doing to turn around beers so well in these tanks? So I had really cool conversations with a lot of them over email, and they're willing to share that. And so when we finally were into the stages of COVID where we had to just can all the beer, we figured out that, we can actually turn around really good IPAs, especially hazy IPA. Hazy IPA became a big thing for us for a bit.
The haze craze was pretty nuts. Yeah.
And it hasn't slowed down for us. Like obviously this year, 2024, we got gold for professional human being, which is a huge accomplishment for the brewery.
So awesome.
One of the highest regarded categories now.
Yeah.
And it's a wild one. We were stunned when it happened, but it was really cool to see how we could do IPAs on those tanks. And now as we've grown, our cellar's gotten bigger. We actually have real unit tanks. In February of this year, we got a new brew house. So we're constantly adjusting and dialing in the recipes. But I think the biggest quest for us right now is like, now that hops have been such a big part of our program, we finally did hop selection in Yakima this past September. And that was a very eye-opening experience for all of us. We haven't had that opportunity to do it just as a small brewer. It was hard with contracts. And then COVID made things even harder. And this year, Ian McCall at ISM,
love him,
great guy.
Yeah,
he was a big advocate of pushing us. He's like, you guys need to go to Yakima. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, we're going to do it. Talked to all of our hop reps, made it happen. And John, Dro, and myself went, and it was just an incredible experience. And now we already have our first selected hops that we're using and some of the beers that are coming out in January. So super excited about that. And I'm just excited to see how the 2025 program grows into understanding hop profiles more, different varietals, different farms, all the lots. And it's a really cool experience for us as we're expanding and growing what we're doing with IPAs.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and I know you said you started off like brewing sessions and stuff like that, but like now, like what are some of your favorite styles to brew and or drink?
Drink for sure. I am chasing West Coast all day.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because I never used to. And now it's like, we've done so many collaborations with amazing West Coast brewers at this point that I'm always just like, what are they doing? And we do these collabs, and it's so fun to like, we all do a lot of the same things, but there's just enough of a different process. And maybe it's their water, their system, and just whoever brewed the beer that day and who cellared it and how they dry hopped it. There's so many different things that go into place. But then you look at the hop selection that everyone's getting and you're like, this is where it's at. So I'm really chasing that for us. And it's been a really fun experience to play with new hop products, new varietals, and even the old varietals, but just getting actual selected lots that we thought would translate well into the beer program that we do here at Ambitious.
Yeah.
So that's always been fun. But I truly, I think at my homebrew heart, I love brewing Belgian beers.
Okay.
We don't get to do it enough. We brew maybe a couple saisons a year just because they're not massive sellers, but we do actually pretty decent in the tap room. John is also a massive, I think, saison guy. And so whenever we get a chance to brew anything, it's like John's usually on the deck that day brewing it. And it's always a fun experience for him. But they're simple beers, but they're so artful in the way that the yeast expresses itself. So I think those are always going to be beers that I truly love to be a part of.
Okay.
But as we've grown as professional brewers, I'm also chasing lagers too and challenging our system and what we can do with it. We have a simple system, even though it's upgraded. So we can't do decoction mashes. We can't really step it down or anything like that, but we could still make really clean lagers. And we've been trying to keep 2 to 3 on at any given time right now with our small cellar capacity. But that's probably the next big thing outside of IPA that I'm really excited about brewing all the time.
Okay. Yeah, and I love when a saison's done right, or a wild ale. It's like, oh man, speaking of when we were talking about Nadav earlier, how they had every year February they do that Princess Bride kind of thing. Yeah. And they did the tumbling one, but it was like a while. Oh man.
So
I usually let it sit for a few months and then I pull it out for WrestleMania or something 100%. Like that and then I drink it. So good.
That's a really funny beer to drink on WrestleMania.
Oh yeah. For whatever reason I always get one bottle and I save it for WrestleMania.
Yeah, that hits home.
Oh yeah.
I love that. So awesome.
I know I'd asked you like what was the beer, but it was like you said it was the Maui, the coconut porter.
Yeah, Maui coconut porter I think was the gateway beer for me.
Okay,
which is a really funny beer style.
Yeah, because most you know what's crazy, like, and I like hearing that because a lot of the time it's usually Sierra Nevada, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I love Sierra Nevada, even as a kid when I would snake a few from my dad. But I mean, yeah, like it's always cool hearing something else like that because of all things, it being like a coconut porter. Like,
yeah, it's one of the things where I think that also goes into the idea of the name Ambitious Ales. Because as homebrewers, we had a lot of ambition. We wanted to throw different ingredients in and try and create balance and something that was flavorful and just pure creativity, I think was like the biggest thing for it. And when we would drink those beers, we'd be really excited about it. So all of our initial homebrews were adjuncted. They always had a fruit or an herb or chocolate, coffee, whatever that might be. And that's why you still see a lot of those on our tap list today because we have a lot of passion in that. Like, we like adding flavor to a well-brewed beer, but with balance, nothing too overbearing. And that is a really, really fun component that we haven't lost yet. We still have to focus on obviously the beers that sell really well, IPA, lager, lots of hazy. But it's fun to embrace that. And I think that's like the true ambitious side of us that we always kind of keep dear to our heart.
Of course. And one of the things I wanted to ask you too is like balancing creativity and consistency, because like you said, you have to push hazies because hazies sell.
For sure.
Like, you're balancing that other part of it where, because even like you're starting to see more browns on tap menus. You're
Absolutely.
seeing like even reds too now, I feel like are kind of
multi-beer is slowly making its way back in the tap room. And I think I appreciate an excellent red ale, an excellent brown ale. ISM does an awesome brown ale.
Oh, yeah.
Our friends over in Lawndale, Farfield, they do an excellent red ale. That's like probably one of the better ones I've ever had. And I think they just took World Beer Cup for that just this year too, which is really awesome. But those styles, I think for us is what Ambitious is. They don't speak a lot to us.
Yeah.
So we never really focus on bringing them in. So we try and find a way to diversify it. So like a really fun beer that's on right now, it's called Domingo. Okay. And it's this like really weird hybrid of a kind of like an Irish style dry stout.
Okay.
But also an imperial stout, but then with a little bit of brown ale in it.
Oh, all right.
So it's like, it has the perfect level of malt, but it's fermented with English yeast that brings out a lot of fruity esters. And the bitterness profile is very low. So it feels dry, slightly sweet, which is kind of a weird sort of anecdote, but it has all the notes that you want between like chocolate, a little bit of roast, a tiny bit of bitterness, but then there's like this really nice fruity toffee character.
Oh, okay.
But none of it's overbearing, so it's very drinkable. It's to me like how much people love drinking a Guinness and just like that comfort in that beer. This beer brings a lot of comfort, but at a 7% ABV.
Nice.
So it's really fun. And I think those are like the types of beers. The technical beer style is called tropical stout, which is like historical beer style that's brewed in the Caribbean.
I don't think I've even heard of that.
Yeah, it's not a stout, like, because the problem is, tropical stout, people are going to think like it's adjuncted or like what's in it, like is there fruit or coconut or something, but it's what the brewers in the Caribbean have been making because Guinness owns breweries over there. Yeah, and so they want to make some higher ABV versions of those stouts, and that's kind of what they invented. They created that style, but it's not a very well like talked about or brewed style. So when looking into it, I was like, this sounds fun and it feels ambitious, and it's kind of a hard beer to brew because the malt bill is very complex and you have to figure out the balance of it all. And yeah, it's probably one of the more exciting beers we brewed all year for such a simple beer overall. Yeah. And that kind of falls in that line of like approaching non-traditional styles of like the brown and reds, like those maltier beers. But it's something that's approachable to that person that comes in and wants a different beer that's not an IPA, not a big imperial stout, but something that falls in line with more character,
That's awesome.
So I've been very excited about it.
What's the story behind the name?
Well, it's very relevant right now.
That's okay. That's
if anyone's watched SNL and Sabrina Carpenter, we have a really funny beer name channel in our Slack for the brewery, and a lot of ideas get thrown out, and it was just fresh when that beer got put out. We were like, we need a name. And then somehow Domingo got put in, and we're like, all of us lit up because that skit is hilarious. And
it's great.
It went viral. It took over the internet. And so we like to lean into pop culture stuff here. It's like the Adam Sandler, all the Deeds references, all the Billy Madison stuff. Like we really push into that. So it's always fun to like link up with anything else that might be a little far retracted from that. But hey, it's SNL, so it's still relevant,
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that skit. I don't know how many times.
Oh, it's incredible. It's super funny. And my wife she's very big on the pop culture intel.
Okay.
And I guess supposedly there's like a rumor that Domingo, the actual like character, the actor from SNL, is dating Sabrina Carpenter, which is pretty fun.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Heard it here like, first. Oh, okay. Yeah, here you go. Here's your leak.
There it is.
Yeah.
Because it was all Batman Rapids, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm a big Superman's my favorite, but Batman's always been number 2, like for me.
I love that.
Oh yeah. Another thing I want to ask you, like obviously being here or in Long Beach, obviously like we mentioned and we mentioned, Nadav, like Farfield, all these different like all these local places. How do you incorporate like local culture into the brewery?
Totally. Well, I think kind of going back to talking about the brewing community first, that's probably the most attractive thing about what got us all together to start this brewery, because we all had different backgrounds, different jobs, different career paths. And I think we were all kind of a little burnt out, jaded in the industries we're in. And the beer world has always been super approachable, very collaborative. The community element in general has just been so tight-knit. The sharing of information.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably my favorite thing just in general being in Long Beach, we have so many cool breweries close to us that if we all have text message chains, so if we need something like a hop, a chemical, yeast, malt, whatever, like something for the tap room, we just send a text and someone usually has it and we can go pick it up right away.
That's awesome.
And I think that's super cool because a lot of other industries don't talk to each other that way.
Oh, yeah.
It's very competitive, very like anti this, anti that. And this is all just about what do we do better together to make it something where everyone comes to us, and it's like,
exactly.
I think that's the best part about beer. It's a gathering thing. It's a social hub. It's a connector. And outside of that, with the brewery specifically and our tap room and our mission and just the community that we've built around here, especially in Bixby Knolls, great community. So fortunate to be here. The community has embraced us. We have embraced them. We host mini events, baby showers, weddings. I've found out, I think like upwards of like 10 plus people that are regulars have met here or had first dates and have now either gotten married, engaged, or have had children.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. In like the first 6 years of our business, we are creating those types of connections and we're the foundation of that, which is really cool. And you still see them. So it's really fun. Like when all of us worked the tap room in 2019 and 2020, before we actually had any sort of team and staff, and it was just the ownership running everything day to day, you still see the same regulars, but you're like, they were our age, but now they're married and now they have little ones and they're in a beer garden hanging out. And it's a really cool experience to see that. Like we've created something and that's really fun. And then also on the other side, Jerome, our business partner, he is Filipino American and he has really embraced our connection with the Filipino American community. And so we have done a ton of collaborations with breweries, with local businesses that are all like, it's basically, we did like October, we did AAPI month and there was Filipino American History Month, not Heritage, History Month. And we did a Kamayan dinner. We did 4 different beer releases that were all Filipino inspired. So that community is very large around here and embracing them was really important for us as a brand, us as a brewery, us as just a community sort of hub. And Jerome has spearheaded all of that and he's done an excellent job. And so we have a huge connection with that community and it's been great because they tell everyone, they bring in their friends, their family, and the word spreads naturally. And it's been really fun to be a part of that. So it's great to see it. So I think that's, one of the big social connectors of what this brewery is all about.
That's great. I mean, and when you can bring like, the community together and like you said, I think that's really awesome that, like there's so many people that have met here and, created relationships and you said now having kids and stuff like that.
Super fun.
Yeah. It's a cool story because then like behind them, they're like, oh, they tell their friends, when they ask them, how did you guys meet? Ambitious Ales.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Brings people together.
Love it. That's what we did this for, Creating bonds and relationships.
Oh, for sure. I know you mentioned some of the breweries that you would go to when you're home brewing and stuff like that, but were there like brewers specifically maybe that influenced you?
Actual brewers themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can always attribute a lot to Evan Price.
Yeah.
He's been a great influence for anyone in the community for a lot of beer styles. Obviously IPAs, he does really, really, really well, but it's a very just well-rounded person, well-rounded brewer. We've followed him since Noble Ale Works back in the day.
Yeah.
and seeing where the Green Cheek success and popularity has gone. And it's fun listening to him talk on different podcasts, and it's very inspirational. So he's always, I think, been a big person to look up to and talk to. But yeah, I think like locally, I already dropped Ian McCall. He's been a great person. I've actually known him since the Beechwood days.
Okay.
We've had so many birthday parties, get-togethers, gatherings at Beechwood, Long Beach. I was a huge customer of Beechwood Seal Beach when it first opened.
Nice.
And followed it all the way, you know, when Congregation was the Long Beach spot of beer.
Yeah.
RIP, I just found out this week. They're closed.
No. Yeah.
But when I remember we would hang out there, and then next door we saw Coming Soon Beechwood, and we're like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Julian Trago, obviously too, you have to give a shout out to. He's always been an incredible person. We've had a fortunate couple collabs with him, which has been really cool as a brewery and very inspirational. You know, it's a great local group of people to be inspired by.
Oh, for sure. And I wanted to ask, because obviously we had the Lord of the Rings names on there, because I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan.
Okay.
I love the "You shall not pass" sign.
You shall not pass.
So who, like, what is it, you, or like who's like the big Lord
It's
of the
a
Rings
collective
fan?
of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say Jerome, Danny, and John are the three, I think, like movie buffs.
Okay.
And they know all the like taglines, the quotes from every movie. I'm a big movie guy, but I know what they're talking about, but they really bring that inspiration into the tap room and the branding for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, honestly, just like the way it looks, and you know, like the decor, I guess, the ambiance, whatever you want to call it. But like, I love like the wood. I mean, like the wooden tabletops, but like it makes that white pop. Like,
oh yeah,
everything in here looks
that
great.
was a very important factor for us. You know, I think you can kind of go back to the days that we were being inspired by craft beer. A lot of those were warehouse industrial breweries, which was just like a walk-in cold box with taps on it and like metal furniture and nothing really special. But it was special because we got to go in this place and drink beer, and you had to go find it.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on, I think we've seen how a lot of these breweries have unfortunately shuttered, and there's been a trend of different craft beer drinkers and what people want out of the brewery. And you know, we have to do everything. We can't just make beer now. We have to be a community. We have to be an event space. We have to bring a lot to what is highly competitive in the neighborhood. So when we were choosing a location, Long Beach was never fully on our list, but it got put on our list when they started changing some rules to allow it to be easier to open a brewery essentially here. We were originally looking in Orange County just because that was where we were all from. And Long Beach really spoke to us, and they were very friendly, and we were allowed to open here. You know, there's always the ups and downs of trying to build a business and whatnot, but overall it was very, very straight, like even keel flowing, and it felt really good that we could just easily come into this neighborhood. And Bixby was a place that was never on our radar. And this is such a great community with a lot of small business, and that was really important to us.
That's good.
But also being on a main thoroughfare. We're on Atlantic and Carson. These are busy streets.
Yeah.
We have a lot of walking,
traffic,
foot traffic. And I feel like we're a really good anchor of this corner. And so people really see us, and they're always wondering what's happening here. So we get a lot of people just wanting to stop by, see what we're all about. And that's my favorite part, is that we get to introduce people to beer all the time, because I'd say maybe 50% of our clientele are just drinkers, but not necessarily craft beer drinkers.
Yeah.
So we get to do a lot of education here, and that's been really fun and important as a part of our program of bringing in new craft beer potential enthusiasts.
That's great. And that's one of the things I've been trying to push, especially on the show, like finding your beer and just getting out there. And even if, because a lot of times like you may have like a group of friends here, and maybe one of them's not really a beer drinker, but they just wanted to come hang out. And then they try one thing, maybe they try a sour, maybe that's their gateway.
Absolutely.
You know, or their coconut porter.
Yeah, their coconut porter.
Yeah, something like that. And then it makes them like eventually that builds that trust with the brewery. They're like, oh, I liked what they gave me last time. I'm going to try something different. And then maybe they can venture out, go on a brewery adventure, you know.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah, no, that's so important. I think earning that trust is really, really crucial. And if you look at our tap list right now, like that's the biggest thing. We try and have enough diversity to appeal to everyone. So if someone walks in here and is not a beer drinker, they could look at some of the fruited options. They could look at Central Perk. Central Perk has always been, I would say, like our entry beer for a lot of people, because we're like, do you like coffee? And they're like, yeah, I love coffee. But coffee and beer, I don't know about that. They're like, okay, just try it. So our taproom team, by the way, excellent. they do such a good job of education and letting people sample things and being patient with them and letting them really understand the beers that we're offering so they can make a good choice. Because the worst thing that we want to see is that they get the full beer and they don't like it and they want to return it. We're like, no, we want to have you have a splash of this and that. See what you like, and then we'll help walk you through it and then find the right choice. So then you can commit to that and enjoy it and then hopefully get another one or earn that kind of trust and then start moving on to the next beers. So yeah, Central Perk's always been a really, really good beer for that because it's so complex. It's got coffee and vanilla in it, but it's clear. The beer is brilliantly clear and it's got a nice golden hue to it. So people are always like, they think coffee, they think stout. It's got to be dark, it's got to be huge. And this is a very refreshing beer. And I think it's been like one of our number one sellers for almost 6 years now, which is really cool to say. Like a coffee beer is in our top 5 all the time. You're like,
that's awesome.
We brew it in 20 barrel batches every month. And it's really fun to see that. And like, it's a beer that it's never going away. And I'll give a big shout out to Rose Park Roasters here in Long Beach.
Okay.
They've helped us really dial in that beer. We do selection with them on coffee beans, and we do usually like Guatemalan beans that we really like to cup, and we find different origins. And Andrew's been just a great advocate for finding the perfect bean for us, which is really fun. And I'm personally like a huge coffee fanatic, so that helps me lean into the creative side of things where like I love food, I love beverages, I love beer. And like coffee is like such a huge component for me. So being so involved in that selection process for this beer is really important.
Yeah.
And so it's just a fun experience to see when people try it for the first time and they light up. So diversifying the tap list is such a huge thing. And I think one of the funner things that we've really been doing is we don't brew seltzers, right? Seltzers, I think, are like the easiest gateway for a lot of people. It's fruity, it's light, it's not beer, it's just basically alcohol. We've said since day one, no seltzers. But we understand that people don't always want beer. So 2 of the things that we started immediately once we started brewing a seltzer base, because we wanted to see what we could do with it, was we got a slushy machine because everyone likes a frozen beverage.
Yeah.
So that gave us a nice creative sort of pilot system to work on flavors and do something creative and different, and we could change it every day. And that was really well received. But as we started developing that, we're like, what could we do that's a little more? And so a fun program that John and I got really obsessed with is Amaro. So Amaro is a Italian style aperitif or digestif. It's a liqueur. If you look at it, it's basically a sweetened, bitter, alcoholic beverage.
Okay.
It's served before and after meals in Italy, even in France. It's a very European style drink. Campari and Aperol are probably the 2 most popular ones that people can think about that are commercially available at every bar and every grocery store. So we essentially wanted to make our perfect like balance between Campari and Aperol, and we created what we call the red bitter Amaro for ambitious. And that takes a seltzer base and we essentially combine it with 10 different botanicals. We let them steep and then we essentially sweeten them and we serve that almost like a cocktail here at the bar.
Okay.
So you can get it neat, you can get it on a rock, or you can get it as a spritz. The funnest way to get it, which we've it's an industry thing, it's called a spaghetti, which if you go to a bar, you get a Miller High Life, a shot of Aperol and lemon juice in it. And it's a really, really fun industry style drink. So we wanted to bring that into our tap room, and that's been embraced really well. So we always have one simple light lager on. So right now you can get Hamburger's Ice. Shout out Hyro, Hamburger's nice. He's a good homie. We always brew a light lager for him every year.
Nice.
We put our red bitter Amaro in there, and it's just this beautiful bouquet of citrus, a little bitter aromatic, and just like a really nice carbonated spritzy beer. And it's beautiful. And so we love offering that. And that's a very different offering to a lot of different new taproom customers that haven't experienced that anywhere.
That's great. And I love that because I was actually talking to Hannah. Well, it used to be last name. Now it's Mount Baldy Brewing. But her and I were talking yesterday about like trends. And I was like, I mean, because you're seeing the slushy machines and like you're starting to see like, I think Kate Bernat, she wrote an article. She's the president of the North American Guild of Beer Writers.
Okay, yeah.
Sweetheart. And she wrote one about craft cocktails and like that. Cool. And you're starting to kind of see that more in places. And I think that's really cool what you guys are doing. Because then you reach that other clientele that maybe that, just to give them something and then they have, to be like, oh, I got to get back and try that again.
100%. Yeah. So we're hoping to build on that into 2025 and have different offerings that are similar to that where we can make more spirit liqueur style drinks that, they're not beer, they're gluten-free, which is important for a lot of customers now. But it's something that they can get a little bit of buzz on too.
There you go.
So it's fun.
Nice. I love it. Should we grab one more beer?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. And we're back. I have the Batman Rapids, which I'm super stoked about. What do you have?
Batman. I'm actually drinking Domingo now because we were just talking about it. And
Nice.
It feels good. The weather is gloomy. So I was like, oh, I'll move to that.
There you go. Wanted to ask you, because I love to ask any brewer, what was the worst brew day you've ever had?
The worst brew day. So on the original dairy tank system, it's an interesting setup. It's basically looks like a massive bowl.
Okay.
It's a pasteurizer for milk is what it is, but you can convert those with the false bottom to make it a mash tun. And breweries like AleSmith started that way. And that system actually went over to Jeremy at Eagle Rock, and he was brewing on up until they just closed. So for almost 10 years.
Wow.
You can make excellent beer out of it. And even like Highland Park, they were brewing at a very, very similar style setup.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that can go wrong on that system. And one of the big things is a stuck mash, which
yeah.
if people don't know what a stuck mash is, it's horrible. It's essentially when all of the proteins coagulate together and they kind of gum and they turn into like cement.
Yeah.
And we were brewing a Goza on that system our first year. Goza's 50% wheat. And if you don't use enough rice hulls, which are used to essentially break everything up, and there's some enzymes you can use to do the same thing. If you just don't do the right ratio, you can get a stuck mash. So we got a stuck mash. And I think that stuck mash took upwards of like 5 hours to basically run off the rest of the wort that we're creating into the kettle. We probably lost like 2 barrels. The beer quality was definitely not amazing. The efficiency was bad. I think all in all, that brew day was like over 10 hours. So very stressful, very frustrating, and not fun. So that's one of the worst ones. And then I think outside of that, the only other thing, we didn't have a bad brew day, but we got in our first year too, we had a bad issue with a lab pitch from a yeast laboratory.
Wow.
And it actually caused a like mutation, and it was almost like an infection. And it was still to this day the one and only batch of beer, knock on wood, that we had to dump just straight from the tank. So it fermented out. It was not good. And quality control has always been a huge thing for us. We do not want to sacrifice that. We want to make sure that the beer that everyone is drinking is a beer that we want to be drinking.
Of course.
We're not trying to serve bad beer. And that beer had to go down the drain. So that was a really sad day. I don't remember what that beer was though, but I do remember it, and I just remember being really sad.
Yeah. I bet.
I think those two are probably like, I know you asked one, but
it's all good.
Yeah. Sad days. Overall though, there's frustrating brew days sometimes, but that happens.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Those are probably the worst ones.
You do it because you love it.
100%.
Yeah. And you get we've talked about it, but like there's so many different styles you guys have on the menu. Like there's something for everybody.
Yep.
Like what's your approach like to recipe development for stuff like that?
Simplicity.
Yeah.
I think simplicity is key. Even as a home brewer building recipes, there's a really big fascination with homebrewers to just add little small percentages of everything, like when it comes to malt and hops and lots of different techniques. And I think that just causes a lot of confusion, and it causes a lot of just like, does that actually translate correctly? So I paid attention to that like as a home brewer on recipe development, and we've always kept our malt bills fairly simple, just finding high quality malt, having the right percentages, learning the efficiency of whatever brewing system we're using, whether it's a 5-gallon homebrew kit or a 10-barrel, brew house. And that still translates today. Like, I think the only time our grist, which is, the malts that we're using and the different ratios is complex, is if it's like a huge stout, something that's going to go for bourbon barrel aging, or maybe like Domingo, which I'm drinking right now. Yeah. It does have quite a bit of malts, and that's part of the character. But when it comes to lagers, West Coast IPA, even sour beers, I think simple is better. So 2, 3, maybe 4 malts at most, and really finding the right base malt. That's a huge thing. And then finding just the right accent malts is all there.
Of course.
And then the rest is just, simple. Make sure your water's good. You have fermentation control. You have healthy yeast. you're going to make good beer.
There you go. And every time you say Domingo, I'm trying not to laugh, but it just makes me like,
it's so funny.
I keep hearing the song in my
head. Yeah. It's great. You got to put that in on the mix somewhere. That's going to be your closer song.
I might have to do that. Talking about like, like the simplicity, have you ever like, has there maybe been like an ingredient that you've like, maybe just not like what do you want to call it? What's the right word? Like maybe a non-traditional kind of ingredient or like an unusual ingredient you've put in a beer?
Well, I mean, I think the most unusual one is in Fleurs. We use chamomile and lavender.
Okay.
And strawberries in a Belgian beer. So it's complex, kind of weird, all over the place. It's a really hard beer to enter for competition.
Yeah, what do you put it in?
It's fruit, but herb.
Yeah.
And we've won awards on it in different categories, but it never feels like the right category. And that's kind of like a big beef I think a lot of brewers can talk to you about competition beers and how to enter stuff in, because you'll see a lot of beers that win on a certain category and you're like, that's actually not the beer style, but hey, you did it, And judges, it's polarizing. It depends on who's on the table and how that works. Like that's a whole nother conversation. But for that specific beer, that's a homebrew recipe that like actually ironically translated perfectly linear.
Yeah.
It started as a 5-gallon that went to a 10-gallon and went straight to 10 barrels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the exact same turnout every time. But what's fun is that like lavender is this very aggressive flavor. It's huge aromatic. I think people think lavender is like soap or candles or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you mix this herbal component with strawberries, there's like this beautiful homage that happens. And it's really fun. We get to brew that beer at least once a year, sometimes twice. It depends on the harvest of strawberries. We get them from the Central Coast. We have a good supplier in LA. And it just depends on like the perfect timing, because you can get strawberries year round in California, but they're not necessarily good. So you have to find that peak time when they're actually good. And we usually find that in spring. And then even sometimes we've gotten lucky in fall, surprisingly. But the fun part when you're using lavender and chamomile, you have to find the right ratio on the hot side. You're making like a tea beer.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to cut through it with sweetness from a fruit. But you have to premeditate this because you're brewing those without fruit first.
Yeah.
So your initial profile is going to come out probably a little bitter, probably a little too herbal. But then you're like, okay, I know the perfect amount of sweetness I'm going to get in acidity from this fruit that will cut through that and actually balance it out and make it a really nice, beautiful beer. So that's always a really fun one to brew. And it is very unusual to use those ingredients.
Yeah.
And like the fun part about the lavender we've been getting the last, I think 3 years now, that is coming from a neighbor that lives walking distance from the brewery. He owns a lavender farm in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
So every year he brings us tons of vacuum sealed lavender.
Like the blossoms?
And just gives it the flowers. He just gives those to us. And he's like, yeah, I know you brew with them. Like, just use it. And I'm like, all right, we'll take it. Like, this is cool. Like, and it's really high quality lavender. And he sells it all over the country.
Wow.
So it's really fun. And like, we get it for free. And we just like, hey, here's some beers. Cool. So it's a fun ingredient to use. And it's almost like a local, regular influenced ingredient, which is cool. And it's very obscure and weird because people are like, lavender in a beer? I don't know about that.
Yeah, and that's great. Even going back to like the local culture thing, like, how incorporating local stuff into your beer and boom, there it is.
Yeah, and it just naturally showed up and we're like, this is amazing.
Yeah. And I always love to ask like what the craft beer community means, but I know we've kind of touched on that already. So what I would want to ask is what, like if you were going to give someone advice as to whether it was like either just start homebrewing or if maybe they already are homebrewing and they feel like I want to take that next step to open a brewery.
Sure.
What kind of advice would you give them?
Do your research.
100%
do it. I think the one thing I will always say is when we were opening, and we opened almost 6 years ago, but the idea started over 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Everyone was still telling us to not do it. And operating any business is hard. It's no different than a retail spot, a restaurant, a brewery, whatever it might be. It's a lot of work. And I think you have to go in the mindset with knowing, do you want to commit yourself to this work? Do you have the passion in it? And I think the real true testament is if it's something you're passionate about, you should do it. I'm a huge advocate for talking to anyone that wants to be themselves. Like, open up their own business, pursue their own goals, not work this job, find a new job. I think you should do it. You should always do it because a lot of people live in fear, and there's no reason to live in fear. It's like, we have to take risks. Risk is just part of life, and you can take an educated risk or you can go for it. But I think if you do enough research and you talk to enough people, you can assess your comfort level and what you want to do. And I will always support people in any adventure they want to do, because if they believe in it and it's part of like what speaks to them, it's in their heart and their head, you should 100% chase it, because there's so many people I've met that just don't do it because they're afraid of change.
Yeah, they're afraid to fail too.
Yeah, and failure is part of life.
Yeah.
In every element you can do, and business will be one of them. Like, we've had plenty of failures in this brewery, but we've had plenty of wins.
Yeah. And I'm drinking Batman Rapids, and what does his dad tell him? He's like, why do we fall brew so we can learn to pick ourselves up?
Exactly. So it's like, I don't know. I don't like to live in fear. I like to take a little risk. I like to do my research, but I also like to be happy. And I think happiness is a big part of chasing what you want to do. And a lot of people hold themselves back. So if you want to open a business, if you want to open up a brewery, you should 100% always do it. If it's in your heart and in your mind, you should always go for it. There's no reason to hold you back. Like, just send it. Just do your research. That's all I could say. Do your research and follow your heart.
Yeah, I mean, and so I would say like 99% of the time, and people worry about stuff, and like 99% of the time, it ends up being okay.
Always.
Yeah.
And if it's not okay, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite saying my wife and I have. We always say to each other, we'll figure it out. Yeah. It's just part of our life. Things might not always go the way you want, but you'll figure it out. And that's how we should always live life. It's like, don't hold yourself back. Be happy. Enjoy it. Do it.
Yeah.
Open a brewery. Open up a restaurant. Open up your retail store. Like, do it. Quit your job. Get a new job. Yeah. Like, it's fine. Yeah, you will figure it out.
1,000%. I say that, like, I was actually, when I was talking to Hannah about it yesterday, it's like, just, being unhappy, like people being unhappy and not wanting to do something, then find something like, I know we all have to pay the bills and stuff like 100%. That. But find something on the side to kind of subsidize your happiness. Like, to do anything, like just do something to make you make this life a little easier. Because if you're just going through your life miserable, what's the fucking point?
Absolutely. And it's just like our team, like our Taproom team, we have, it's a part-time work. Everyone works a lot of hours. They almost work full-time, but they all have other passions and hobbies. Yeah. And we support that. We've had so many people that have left here now because they're pursuing their careers. And it's like, yes, this is your place. You're making money, you're serving, you're doing us justice, you're speaking to our customers, our community, but you're also building yourself up so you can now do this another job. You can get in this career. So it's like, we have a future library science major that's coming in. We now have an RN that's out there in the wild. Like, we have people that have come here and they've had other aspirations, but this is just a holding pattern. Mm-hmm. But they've learned a lot. They've built a lot of knowledge and community, customer service experience, and I think a lot of just cool, like, social connectors and love overall. And that's really fun. It embraces you and we embrace them. So it's like, anytime you want to do something, like, you should always 100% go for it.
Exactly. And you talked about like building connections. I feel like that's what this community is for me. It's like building friendships, man. Like, building beer. Yeah. And like you mentioned how you can send a text message to someone. Say, I always joke about my buddy Abraham, and shout out to Abraham and at La Bodega Brewing in Whittier.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he always says like, well, we always joke with him now. He's like, because he's like, got any saw, bro? And we took a picture like that.
Nice. That's the true coconut.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, he, like, with the craft beer community in general, like, it is the best industry that I've ever, I'm just thankful that people let me be a part of it.
Yeah. Like, to be thanks for having us.
Oh, no, I mean, I love it. And if I can do anything to promote a small business, like, it's all family run stuff.
100%.
And there's like,
people living their dreams.
Yeah. I mean, they're willing to take that risk. And you being like, you and your buddies, Jerome and everybody being like one of them, like one of those people, like, what's better than that?
Yeah. No, that's the coolest part. This was our friends. We all were friends. We've known each other since high school.
That's great.
Which is even crazier. Yeah. And we still haven't killed each other. We're
this far. There.
We're this far in, and we've built up a really cool and fun working environment to be in. And nothing is ever perfect, but I wouldn't change it for anything else in the world. It's amazing.
You created it, or you guys together all created one kick-ass place, and
thank you.
The beer's amazing. Obviously, I love being in the tap room. The tap room's so cool. I love the design of it, the flow of it in the patio area with the barrels.
Appreciate it.
But before we finish up, I just have a couple more things. I don't like to keep anybody too long.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Desert Island beers. So you can pick one domestic, one craft.
Ooh, one domestic, one craft. All right. Well, domestic's easy. I drink so much Miller High Life if I go out now.
What's the champagne of beers?
It's a champagne of beers. I think everyone says it's it's the brewer's beer, blah 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 blah. But it's great. It's just so light. It's so easy. It's versatile. I love the spaghetti thing. We're a big Amaro people, so shout out to the Hawk. They make spaghettis here in Long Beach, so you can get a spaghetti and a Miller High Life, which isn't the norm in a lot of bars, so that's fun. So that's easily Desert Island domestic beer. But for craft beer, I would go international. And it's not, it's craft, but not craft because it's just more of a country's beer, but DuPont Saison.
Okay.
That is easily the most complex, easy drinking, satisfying beer I've ever had. I think even John would attest to that. He's a big Saison guy. And our favorite thing is across the street, we got Rasselbach and we can get DuPont every once in a while on tap there, which is really fun.
Wow.
That's kind of a rarity. So that's always a fun experience. It is better out of the bottle, I will say, because the carbonation's higher and it's a crucial element for the beer, but it is fun to try it on draft because you don't see it very many places. But that's just a beer that I think it speaks to our homebrew hearts. It also speaks to being a professional brewer now. And it's iconic. It's an iconic international beer. And I think it gets the love it needs, but it can always get a little more.
Okay. I'm going to throw a curveball into that one because I've never actually asked somebody, because I've always asked the Desert Island beers, but what about a Desert Island movie?
Oh, Desert Island movie.
Yeah, I've never asked anybody this before. So you're popping that cherry question.
Big Lebowski.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, the dude abides. The dude abides.
He's still great.
It's always the best. Yeah, I love that movie. I could watch it weekly and never get sick of it. It has so many good lines in it.
Oh, yeah.
And it speaks to a lot of things in my life. And it's also SoCal based, which is my home and where I'm from. And it's amazing. I love it.
That's awesome. Last question. Favorite food to pair with a beer?
Favorite food to pair with a beer? I'm a sandwich person.
Okay.
I do like pesto, weirdly enough. Like
Pesto's great.
Pesto and everything. I'm a huge cocktail wine person, actually, outside of the brewery.
Oh, okay.
But if it comes to beer, I will just chase the best lager I can possibly have at that moment because it's just universal.
Yeah.
It will work with anything. I know it's probably boring, but it works super well. I can get let down by a lot of other beers, but usually lagers, they treat me pretty well anywhere I go. So I get really happy about just drinking a local lager with any food I'm having in that particular moment.
And the lagers too, that's one of the reasons why I always love to try a lager pilsner first. Because I know if that's good, then everything else is
100%. That's a true testament of a great brewery. If the lager's good, then you should not be let down by anything else.
Oh yeah. Because what I would normally the question used to be burgers, tacos, wings, or pizza.
Sure.
If you had to choose one of those four with the lager.
Burgers, tacos, wings, pizza. Probably tacos.
Okay. What's the protein?
El Pastor.
Oh yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. It's just my obsession, or adobada. Either way, whatever. I guess it depends where you're ordering it from, but it's so good. We have so many great taqueros in Long Beach on the streets.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Tacos Leonadas on Clark and Atherton. Excellent.
Might have to try
Taco
that.
Tuesday there. You can get $1 El Pastor. It's great.
Oh dang. Yeah. You never see $1 tacos anywhere now.
Amazing. Yeah. Highly recommend it.
I love that. Honestly, thank you, Garrett, for letting me come down.
Thank you
This
for
has
having
been
me.
super fun. I love this place. This is cool. I mean, I can't wait to come back. And everybody listening, come down, support Ambitious Ales in Long Beach off of Carson and Atlantic. I mean, it's cool because everything's like we mentioned earlier, how the foot traffic and stuff that, and people just wanting to come down. And I'm just super appreciative of you and the craft beer community in general. And
thank you. Yeah, no, it's a welcoming place. It's a welcoming community, and you can bounce around and have a great day of eating and drinking and fun, and super family friendly too.
Oh yeah. That's great. And if you have a pup, and Morgan's not here with me, but if you have a pup, bring her on down.
Oh yeah, we love the doggos.
Oh yeah, I know, because you have one Corgi Tail.
Corgi Tail. That's a homage to my Corgi Conan I had for 10 years. He was a big part of our homebrew journey. So we always brew that beer once a year. That's kind of an honor of him. He unfortunately passed a while ago, but he got to see the building right when we got it though. So it was good. It was satisfying.
Awesome. Well, come down and have a Corgi Tail.
Please do.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Carol.
You.
Cheers,
man. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Diane. I've been working here since September, maybe August. And my favorite beer right now at Ambitious is Cherry High, Says I. It's pretty one of my go-tos. It's not on menu right now, but when it comes around, I hope it comes back. Yeah.
My name is Russell. I've been with Ambitious Sales for 2 years. And my favorite beer here is Gandalf the Crisp.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And also getting to have a couple of the employees on there as well. It's always a good time to be able to hear from them, hear like how long they've been there and, their favorite beer and stuff. So, all right. What do we got coming up? So I'm a little backlogged on episodes right now. I have like 4 in the can, but I believe next week, leading into the anniversary of Burning Daylight, it's going to be the collab episode. Gonna put that. Actually, you know what? I might put that on the back of another episode because it was kind of so much going on during that day. So I think I'm going to throw that onto another episode there. But yeah, I mean, I might just do it on its own. I don't know. We'll see. I might just do a longer intro because it was kind of all over the place. We were kind of busy doing stuff, but we kind of talked about the process. So you know what? Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna make it its own episode. And then we have the Cody Sherwood episode, and then also I have the Jared Gonzalez from Long Beach Beer Lab, also the Brew Distilled podcast episode. There's with Brandon. There's a lot. And then next week I'm going to be recording with Mike from Unsung. It'll be the 2-year anniversary episode. We're going to be recording, and then I'm also going to be recording with Jason at Ogo Pogo this week. So that's super exciting. I've also been talking to someone at IE Brewworks, making something happen there. I got quite a few irons in the fire right now. There's also some other stuff coming up I wanted to talk about. So I mentioned yesterday in my Instagram story that Luis and I from Level Up are going to be doing something. And I kind of mentioned it before. I mentioned it was going to be like maybe 5-minute episodes, but I kind of changed that a little bit. It's going to be like kind of Cheers inspired, and it'll be called Taproom Tales, but we're going to do like 1-minute episodes that are just kind of funny, banter, in the brewery and stuff like that. So it should be pretty fun. I've already written 2 little scripts for it. I'm going to keep working on those. And especially, I think we're going to be doing like the pilot. We're going to call it the pilot, and then one, like a Valentine's Day one. So super stoked for that. Also, no, I don't really want to get into it. I was going to mention something else that may happen, but I mean, if it is, I mean, I don't even know. We have no idea if it'll actually happen. So I'll get into that later once I have some more info. I looked on Spotify the other day and I saw that the show had 92 5-star reviews. So grateful for you guys. I do this for you guys. I do this for the breweries, for the owners, the brewers, everything. Is for you guys to be able to have something you can listen to every week. There's always so much shit going on in the world. If this can get your mind off of it, even if it's just for an hour, I've done my job. So yeah, I mean, and honestly, if anybody else is listening on Spotify and you're listening to this, if you could, give that 5-star review on Spotify, like I've mentioned in the last few weeks, it honestly really does help because it does put the show, like it puts in front of more eyeballs. So super appreciative of that. The same thing goes for Apple Podcasts if you're listening. So again, I'm grateful. Can't believe we're 101 episodes. Fucking insane. But yeah, like I said, I'm super appreciative. Love all you guys. Yeah, I gotta get shit ready so I can start making the stuff for the media. All right. Well, hope everybody has a great Sunday. Hope everybody enjoys the natty. And yeah, cheers, Tap Fam. Don't forget to support local, drink local, and find your beer. Cheers.